Okay, so these are the challenge 1 activities that go over holiday activities, hotel and complaints. Have a look at the 10 here. You'll see them come up on the screen in a minute anyway, and then you can type in your answer to that. So just have a quick look. So the near future, you're going to do something. Just be careful you know how to do that. The main mistake people make is they miss out the a between the verb to go and the infinitive at the end, so be careful of that one. This one you can do either way, so every year could go at the beginning or at the end, and there's different ways of doing that as well. Be careful with this one, it's an impersonal word like gustar and cantar. Remember, when we did this in class, the thing that controls the end of the verb is the thing that you like, all right? So in this case, to eat, it doesn't have a singular or plural, it's just an infinitive. So just put the it ending on the end of the verb, okay? I play tennis on the beach, so the ending for the preterite here is the same as other regular verbs for AR verbs, okay? But just be careful, you have to add another letter in just to keep it giving that g sound in there, so think about that one. They drank calimocho in the restaurant, so I've put it in English there as well. Calimocho is a Basque drink, so Basque country is the north of Spain, just under the Pyrenees, and they make it made out of red wine and Coca-Cola. Restaurant, be careful you spell restaurant, almost the same as in English, just another letter. We visit the hotel restaurant every evening. So for this one, say the restaurant of the hotel, okay, or the restaurant in the hotel. Every evening, again, you could do that at the beginning or the front or the end, but we visited because it's ongoing. We're going to use the imperfect tense for that one. This hotel had games room and a cinema. Again, we're using description here, so we use the imperfect. Had is from the verb to have. So do we know what that is? The verb to have. And then hotel is he, she, and it. So put it in the he, she, and it form. When we got a games room and a cinema here, so make sure you put those articles in. Normally, the hotels in Spain are good. Normally, obviously, it's an adverb of time. Remember, hotels are plurals. How do we pluralize that in Spanish? And then are good, not is good. And remember, when it says good, we need to make sure that the good is also in the plural form as well. My room was big, but the wardrobe was very small. Again, we're using description, so we're describing in the past, so we're using perfect tense. This verb, we'd use the verb to be in the verb ser, so be careful with that one, because it's slightly irregular, and the same thing for this one as well. Very small, we could use very and small, or we could use isimo on the end. If you know how to use that isimo on the end of an adjective, you could have a look at that, but when we go through the answers, I'll show you those. And then the service was slow again, we're describing, so remember we got that, and the staff were not friendly. Staff in English is plural, but in Spanish it's singular, so be careful for were here. And then when we're doing negatives, remember the negative bit goes before the verb and not afterwards, okay? So that's the imperfect tense. So the questions will come up in a minute on the screen. Have a go, type in your answers, and then once you've done that, we'll go over the answers on the screen. Okay, so for this one, we've got two possible answers for this one. So it's either voy a nadar, so we're using the infinitive to swim, I'm going to swim. So remember that little a has to be in there when we're doing the near future. Or we could say voy a bañarme. Now, bañarme comes from the infinitive bañarse, which is reflexive. But when we use it in the infinitive form, we have to change the se to me on there. If you're not sure about how that works, have a look at reflexives. Okay, next one. She goes to Spain. So this isn't the future, but it's just the present. It's the present tense, the verb to go. So va to Spain. Sometimes students miss out that little to, again here. And then todos los años or cada año. Both of these could be at the beginning. All right, so todos los años is every year. Cada año is each year. So either would have been fine. Okay, so remember I said this one is that impersonal verb, gustar. So when it's the it form, we just put a on the end of it, especially when we've got an infinitive afterwards. Okay, and then we put nos when it's the we form. So if you're not sure how impersonal verbs work, have a look at the video on impersonal verbs or look through notes. And then comida española, actually I put a capital E there, it should be a capital E. But remember when it's feminine on the end of español, we put española, okay, because it agrees with comida, which is feminine, okay. Right, next one. Jugué al tenis en la playa. So remember we said the accent, the ending is the same as regular verbs, but we had this little u in here to keep it as a g sound. So jugué al tenis, and whenever we have jugar and then a verb, we put al in between. So jugué al tenis and then en la playa, on the beach, okay? Rather than sobre, some of you might put sobre, okay? Cinco, this is the they form. Bebieron, so the preterite of beber. Calimocho is fine. En el restaurante, now the spelling of this in English and Spanish, just be careful of that. And then we just add an E, so it's exactly the same as English, but just add that E on the end. But some people get that A and U mixed up. Okay, next one. We visited. So this is actually the same as the present tense. If you know the present tense is the same, but this is the preterite, so the past tense. Again, spelling of restaurant, be careful of that. So the restaurant of the hotel, or we could say in the hotel, one or the other. Then cada tarde, each evening, or todas las tardes. La tarde is feminine, so that's why it's todas las tardes, as opposed to todos los años we had at the top here, because año is masculine. Again, either of these two could go at the beginning. Okay, next one. El hotel tenía, and we could put un there or not, tenía salón de juegos y un cine, or we could take that out. That's a bit stylistic more than a general rule. So we use the imperfect tense of tener here. Tener in this tense is regular, so it had, and we're using that because it's description. Okay, number 8. Normalmente, los hoteles, remember when we pluralize things with a consonant on the end, we add es on the end. So in Spanish it's hoteles. In España, and it's they are, so son buenos. If you're not very good at the verb ser, have a look at my Quizlets for that, or vocab, or your notes, or there's a video, or you can use some of the grammar books that are in the classroom. Okay, number 9. That's not working. There we are. Mi habitación era grande. So we're using the imperfect tense here because we're describing again. Don't forget that little accent on there. ION, whenever it ends in ION, is always an accent on the O. Pero el armario, because this is masculine, again we're using era, but this time we're using pequeño. If you want to learn how to use pequeñísimo, these are called augmentatives. So pequeñísimo on the end of this adjective just means it's really or very something. So in this case, very small. Okay. Okay, and then the last one. So el servicio era lento. Again, we're describing, so that's why I was using imperfect tense. Y el personal, as I said when I was describing these ones, this one's singular, so it's is or was rather in this case. And then we put the no before that verb, okay? And because it's singular and masculine, then we put simpático and not simpáticos, and era antipático. So simpático, not very friendly, or unfriendly. So you could just say era antipático. Okay, so that's the C1, the challenge, the first challenge, and then we're going to go on to the second challenge next. So here we are with the text. A little bit less help with this one. Just think of your tenses as you go through. Think about whether it should be in perfect tense or preterite tense. Be careful of your weather. There's a bit of weather in there as well. Have a look at your adjectives and make sure your adjectives agree. And make sure you've got the right tenses. Have a little think about the types of words we have: adverbs of time, and we've got I would love to go at the end there. Remember, that's an impersonal verb, so just be careful how that one works. Now you'll see the questions come up in sections for this bit, so fill them in sections, and then I'll go over all the answers in the next part of the video. Okay, so we've got the first bit is the near future. So vamos a visitar los sitios de interés, the place of interest, or los monumentos we'd have had in Mallorca. And then este año, if you're not sure how to do this, these are called demonstrative adjectives. So have a look through that. There's a video on those as well on my site. Como las atracciones turísticas. So atracciones is feminine, so we need to put turísticas on the end of that. In Menorca, and then because it's they weren't, and it's a description of it over time, we've used imperfect tense. So we use ser here again, but this time in the they form. And then we have to make sure our bueno or buena, bueno agrees with the atracciones, which are feminine and plural. So we've got buenas. El hotel era bueno, so this one is masculine. So we've got bueno or bonito. You could use estaba bien. What you can't do is mix and match. You can't say era bien and you can't say estaba bueno. Okay, so el hotel era bueno or bonito or estaba bien. Pero era un poco frío de noche, so it was quite cold at night. So this one describes the hotel. If you wanted to do the weather, you're talking about the weather at night, you'd say hacía un poco frío de noche, right? Or por la noche, okay? Which was que, so which or that, era un poco extraño, a bit strange, given that, dado que, and then we're using the weather here again in the perfect tense, hacía mucho calor. Remember when we do very, when we're using weather, we use mucho. What we're literally saying is there's much heat, okay? So that's how we say that in Spanish. So hacía mucho calor durante el día. And a note here, although it's got an A on the end, it's an irregular noun, so we use masculine el. And then mainly, so we put por lo general or en la mayoría. We could put mainly in slightly different position as well, possibly. Comimos, we ate. And then comida inglesa. So remember when it's English, inglés, we had an A on the end. The rule for this one is nationalities. If it ends in a consonant, we add an A on the end for the feminine, but we don't do that when we're using other adjectives. Okay. We've got nadamos en el mar, but as we saw in C1, we could have put nos bañamos en el mar as well. Y tomamos el sol, so we sunbathe en la playa rather than sobre la playa, which you might have put. However, sin embargo, we've got, or you could use no obstante. And then next year, we've got various things. You could put el año que viene next year, or el año próximo, or el próximo año is another possibility. We want to do, so queremos hacer. So we want is the queremos bit here. And then because we've got another verb that's linked to the people doing it in the first one, so we're doing the wanting, and we're also doing the doing. The second verb goes in the infinitive, so it's called the second verb rule. So if we have one verb in a tense, the next verb, if it's the same people doing it, we just leave it in the infinitive, whatever the translation is in English, right? Más, just be careful with this one. We've got the accent on the más here. If you don't have an accent on there, it means but, so just be careful. And then me encantaría, so we might have seen this in the present tense, me encanta, but it's the same in the conditional here, me encantaría. The ending of this is controlled by what comes next. So ir is our infinitive because there's no gender there or singular or plural. We just leave this in the it form. So I'd love to do it literally to go to Galicia. Remember that little ah there for two. And la comida allí es fenomenal. Okay. Any questions, ask your teacher in your next lesson.